Hey guys, welcome to Cosmic Convergence. I'm Christian here at the Cosmic Convergence podcast and also Transcendence. And I'm here with my co-hosts, John with We Are One Consciousness and Daniel, Gray Druid. And we have our lovely guest, Jeroen, Quantum Hypnosis Technique Hypnotherapist. And to introduce you, I just want to say you're a seasoned QHHT practitioner from the Netherlands, trained directly by Dolores Cannon in 2006, with extensive experience and certifications in Reiki, EFT, EMF balancing technique, and quantum touch healing. Jeroen conducts individual sessions, mentors practitioners, and hosts group events for meditation and past life regressions. He's holding degrees in art therapy and spiritual psychology. He combines diverse modalities like Kriya Yoga and shamanism to facilitate healing with love. And outside of his practice, Jeroen enjoys nature, art, dance, and photography. Happily married for many years, he invites collaboration in the greater Los Angeles area. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, of course. I spoke to you on my individual channel, and it's great to have you back and bring you out to other audiences as well. And just to get started really quick with a question, I was watching your Instagram feed and you brought up a very interesting case, hypnotherapy case with an individual, correct me if I'm wrong, was connecting to a future self or making a connection to an alien's, what we would consider alien or extraterrestrial interdimensional civilization called the Sani. And if you could go into the Sani, who are the Sani?
So the name that she said was Sani, and this was actually during a group regression that I was doing here in Los Angeles area. So what she described is that this was one of her future lives, and she was living in the Atacama Desert in Chile, and she said, I'm a hybrid woman, and she heard the word Sani, and this rung a bell, but I couldn't remember where I'd heard it before. Then I was remembering sessions that I've done before where somebody would go into a scene in their current lifetime where they found themselves being abducted. They were on a spaceship and they were being it looked like they were being experimented on. You know, in that situation, me as a past life regressionist, I ask lots of questions, make sure that my client is okay. And I always try to talk to whatever person is around them to get sort of the scoop on what's happening. And I remember at the time there were these like short, squatty, like gray aliens, and they didn't have a lot to say. They were very sort of drone-like. Is there someone else I can talk to? And this taller being shows up. This is during the regression. And I could ask it questions, and it explained that they were not what we call aliens, but they were an expression of humanity, our humanity, humans from the future and from a different timeline. And they came here to harvest like DNA material to create this hybrid race, both to further their evolution, but also to help humanity to evolve. And there's different generations of these hybrids, and one of them, and I can't remember which generation it was, is called the Sani. Mm-hmm. And so some of these generations or some of these beings, they live off planet and they kind of observe humanity to learn from us. And some of them are on the planet, and then some of them, they travel back and forth. So, but yeah, one of these generations is called the Sani, as far as I knew. And then, I posted this, and then people were like, "Oh my God, Bashar talks about this." And I've been to see Bashar many times, but I've never heard this word before through him. But apparently it's a thing out there, which is really good to hear. Yeah. I always love it when this information gets confirmed from different angles, because that really lends credibility to it, I think.
Yeah, the validation, and I apologize for the spelling. I told the guys before, I forgot because I got them mixed up, but I know Sani might actually be the name of the planet or wherever they're from, and then Sani are the people. I forgot, or they're interchangeable. I have to check again, but.
Part of the session is when I talk to a person's higher self, and I ask it, why are they shown, the scenes that we end up going into during a session? And what I found out is that, being abducted, it still has a lot of fear around it for a lot of people. And they think, oh my God, these evil aliens, they're coming here and they do whatever they want with us. And that was not the case in this case. This person's soul had contracted with these beings from another timeline of humanity to help them in this current lifetime with genetic material.
Like pre-birth, like agreement?
Yeah, it was a contract. Yeah.
I also know that sometimes people will go into a regression with fear because of remembering something that maybe scary happened, but then when they get into the regression, it's not as scary
Yes.
as they thought it was. It's just,
Yeah.
it was so outside of their realm of reality that it freaked them out.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. And so, and oftentimes we find out that they have had experiences as these other beings themselves, and they decided to, go off to Earth to help out here, and then also to help out their people from the other timeline and the other time.
Druid over here, he's got some stories.
I wanted to kind of mention, so briefly, kind of contract aspect, because so about 3 months ago, brief story, I was astrally abducted into a ship. I couldn't sleep, went into my room. I felt like I needed to project myself up. I've done, in my background, I've done 4 years of remote viewing, helping with people out of trafficking, stuff like that. So when it comes to this type of stuff, it's not, outside of my realm of weird things. My energy taken into the ship, it was really hard to judge the size of the ship too. I think there was some type of temporal thing, but it was 4 different grays. There was a bunch of them in the back. They were kind of doing their thing on the ship, kind of, working and doing whatever they were. And then 4 of them turned, and then I instantly had the impression, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be here. And they're like, lay on the table. And then as soon as I laid on the table, I don't remember anything. I woke up, went to work. I ended up talking with John and Chris later about it, because they're like, why didn't you mention it? I'm like, honestly, I completely forgot about the situation. I ended up seeing something in the sky that day on my break, and then it kind of, all these memories started flooding back to what happened earlier. But the impression of being there, and then as soon as they looked at me, I was like, oh yeah, I had this appointment. Okay, cool. Like, it was it was weird. My conscious brain didn't understand until I was there at that point, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to sit down, or I need to lay down. So it's really interesting how those different details seem to be very common.
To me, it's a great experience. Having done this work now, I'm in my 18th year, and having worked with so many different clients, it's really like shaped my view on who we are as humanity. That we're way more connected to the galaxy than we have been led to believe, or than we know. Like so many people, including myself, I've had experiences where I would go during a session to other lifetimes, that were not on Earth. There were different planets, different galaxies, and it's so normal. So it's both our sort of the architecture of our soul, meaning having lived in other places that makes us who we are here, but also experiences like yourself and people being abducted by their own family members or their own tribe or their own group from another galaxy. And then also our genetic makeup. I've also heard many times that our human genome has been put together with alien DNA, so to say. Yeah, so
That's my understanding of it too. Yeah,
we already really are sort of galactic citizens. Even our consciousness is trying to catch up.
Yep. A few months ago, I did my first channeling session, which was really odd because I didn't believe really much in channeling. But the entity group that I am in contact with came through. And the first thing that they addressed was to my partner, who was really scared about all this stuff. And they said, you don't have to worry. He's family. He's our family, and he's protected, that he's not going to be taken. This is just part of how things are. And it was very matter of fact in addressing her concerns and everything. But I've also heard that from an interview with Chris Bledsoe, talking about that they are family, which is really, really interesting. It's not to say the case for everything that is, because we do have different non-human groups with different agendas, but I think it is an interesting part.
Yeah.
It's really cool that you said that as well.
I love your experience. Yeah, it's so nice. I love that you can talk about it, just like
Yeah.
like it's normal. I think stories like yourself, that it really helps normalize it for all the many people that have these experiences. I really believe that this goes on way more than just being
Going to be
acknowledged.
more common. Yeah.
The three of us here. We have a bond. We met last year, just through social media like TikTok, and we often share our experiences almost in real time. Like we're in constant communication with all of our separate experiences within, an hour to 3 hours. We're communicating constantly, and we have some correlations that go in between, and some validation, or all sense. I'll be in a dreamlike state, taking a nap, and his great druids, his session that he has with the channeling, I'll be in my dream state, and I will see the interaction between him and the entities talking to each other, and I'll feel the vibration, and I'll be vibrating, and then we'll get on, through our message service, and I'll be like, I had the weirdest dream, and he'll say, yeah, that was me. And it's just, we had no idea until we started correlating it with each other. So that leads me to a question. And again, I want to thank you so much for being here. It's an honor. I've been looking forward to this ever since I saw the interview on Transcendent Vibes channel. If you don't mind, can you share any unique or surprising revelations that clients have discovered about themselves through regression?
Really, the most important thing that happens is that people get sort of reconnected to their own soul. They get to experience, what they thought was weirdness as the truth of their being and their connection to source. Here's my cat, Kitty.
Oh, how cute, pretty. Love cats.
And it's very empowering for people to know that that they are a unique expression of source with all of their weird experience, and that all these experiences are purposeful. Like it's like my own experience being a gay man and genderqueer here on the planet. Growing up, that was not reflected back to me as a positive thing, and many other of the aspects of who I am, I just didn't fit in, and I took that on as feeling very wrong and unworthy, and this is what we all experience. Nobody fits the mold that we're given. And during a session, people find out that that this compassion and empathy that they felt all their lives is because they came from another place, and they're here to help anchor that in order to help raise the consciousness on the planet. I mean, that's the general gist. Are you asking about more specific experiences?
Possibly one that just kind of really, you could see the impact on the individual once a session. I know that you probably have repeat clients that continue on with their sessions. I figure it's probably not a one-shot deal for a lot, because it is therapy. So like any kind of really life-changing revelations to anybody, one that stands out.
This is kind of my normal. It's hard to pick one because it's kind of like a one-stop shop for a lot of people. It's a 4-hour-long session, and people come in with a long list of questions that they get answered. So people get told about their life purpose, why they're here. They get answers to any kind of weird experiences they might have had. Even physical issues get cleared and healed in a moment, or they get told like how to deal with it. So it is kind of a wow experience for most people that do this work. And it's done through their own consciousness. It's not me doing it for them. I just help them to stay in that space where they're connecting to it. So, I mean, physical healing has happened. I was talking to one of the more recent ones, like a woman came out of her session and her eyesight was restored completely. She was scheduled for LASIK surgery, but it was healed and cleared, and she could just see 20/20. I had another guy come in who I was talking to his higher self, and they were working with his DNA, asking like, what are you doing with that DNA? And it said, well, we're upgrading a particular part of it, and it would release like human growth hormone into his bloodstream, and that would cause him to grow an inch and redistribute his muscle and fat tissue in the body. And then when I talked to him, like two weeks later, he had dropped 14 pounds without like doing anything. It just moved. So that stuff like that happens all the time. And then Yeah, people, like I remember one woman coming in, she had received a text on her phone from this odd like area code, and she's here in Los Angeles. And it said, "We really love you very, very much." You know, and she tried to call it, and it was like a disconnected number. And so I remember taking her through a past life. It was a human lifetime, but then when she went through the death experience, she flew through space, which happens quite a bit, and she saw this planet that was kind of, I think it was gray looking, and she started to get emotional because this felt like home to her. And so she landed on the planet. She was greeted by another, like the greeter of her family, and they looked like a gray alien. And she was explained that this was her home planet, that she had just like done an excursion to Earth. And she called it the planet Uday or Uday, and they confirmed that they had sent her this text to let her know, you know, because it was hard being on Earth, feeling separate from her people. So to kind of give her some solace from home. This happens quite a bit, like stuff, like odd stuff, where people really get connected to different parts of their soul. It's really so empowering to see, like how people reclaim themselves as you know, important and true, and this is what they're here for. This is their purpose.
What I really like about your the beginning of your answer was quite impactful for me, and that is that a lot of people just have the general knowledge, if any at all, about spiritual healing. And what you said was key, is that you're really not the healer. You're like the facilitator.
Yeah.
Okay, you're the facilitator for the individual soul, the individual person, to heal from within themselves, whether it be through the higher self and downward. Okay, and that's vitally important. I think that it's a big misnomer that people go in for the spiritual healing, and it's the person that is facilitating it is the one that's actually healing them, when it's actually internal and
Yeah.
external, connected to the creator or source. So I want to thank you so much for saying that, because I think that might help clear some things up for people. And that's great. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we just create the container
That's right.
for somebody to do their work. We just help them focus within their own consciousness, and kind of like hold the connection, and but they're doing all the work. I wanted to say, you know, I remember you were, great Jude, you were talking about like going up on a ship and stuff. Like this happens during sessions as well, that we end up in spaceships and they say like, oh, there's beings here, what do they look like? And they describe it. And so most of the time, I'm always very curious. I love like taking a little sidebar in sessions and talking to these beings to figure out where they're from, and to, you know, oftentimes my clients end up channeling these beings. But it has happened like 2 times out of the, I don't know, hundreds of times that I've been in this experience, that, you know, I have my client kind of tap them on the shoulder, like, hey, can we have a little conversation? And they say like, no, no time, I'm not talking to you. And I'm like all hurt, like, oh my God, what do you mean? You know?
I've read cases like that too, where they won't do it
Yeah,
sometimes.
they're like
or-
at the controls or like doing stuff, and yeah. And
I'm busy. Leave me alone. Yeah.
You know, it's probably a little bit more genuine when they're definitely like, "Hey, we're busy. We'll
Yeah.
do this later." You know, it's really funny. I was talking with We Are One Consciousness and Transcendence on just the aspect of, since the channeling, things like Law of One, other aspects of having a greater understanding about these things is just kind of innate now after the channeling. So there was like this transference or download in the back end, almost like a back server, like upload. You know, it's like it's not conscious necessarily. It's the subconscious, and like there's just stuff going on. And you know, they showed me a lot of things. There's a lot of symbols, information, emotions. It wasn't just words. You know, it was wholly hard to describe the experience, but you know, it's really really interesting having that experience, and now having interactions with more and more people that have had similar things, and it's all, you know, correlates, and it's just really really cool. And I kind of wanted to jump off with that was, has anyone made mention of the Galactic Federation? Is that a thing in your own working with clients?
Yes. Yeah, this comes up quite a bit as well. Clients finding out that they are part of the Galactic Federation, or that, you know, they show up in a session and we get to talk to them. oftentimes we find him in sort of like an auditorium of some kind where there is like a big conversation happening about Earth. Remember one, they had like a screen up where they were talking about the whales on Earth that they were helping. I forgot what was important about it. I wish I had like clear notes on this because there's so much different things that happen, but I'm kind of remembering it on the fly right now. So yeah, that's the thing, and it's a group of beings from all over the galaxy that have as goal to help out, not just Earth, but Earth is very much a focal point as well, to help raise consciousness and to maintain balance. That happens, and then sometimes they decide like they're going to go, get their boots on the ground, being on Earth, and others stay, outside of it, looking at it and helping out in that way. But that's definitely a thing. You've encountered them?
I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm becoming more aware that they've been through my life. I know that they are in connection with, again, John's group, and are they part of the Federation? I have not gotten that detail from them yet. It's been more so just with these encounters last year, it's been more focused on the different times of my life that they've been in connection with. And they also brought up the fact that there was a particular owl memory that I remember from my childhood. I don't know if you've heard of the owl aspect. We had a lot of paranormal things happen to us. One of the things that really stuck out, though, a tree full of owls. My mom and dad were praying and stuff, trying to get them to leave because it was really weird. They were Baptist, and so you had a lot of fear based around all of that. And then later on, especially this year, I've had the owl motif has been all over, including I did a Reiki session with a friend who said, "Hey, I want to let you know that the beings in the room, they really love you, and that there was a giant owl being looking over you the whole time," stuff like that, where it was outside affirmation. So that's definitely been a thing. But I think it's been a lot of moving past these fears that I've had for a long time, and then letting them know like they're not just outside, but they're connected, like intrinsically. And then also, I feel like this year there's gonna be a lot more happening, but it's gonna be in different ways. And I don't know how to explain that, but that's kind of been my experience thus far.
I know the owl as like a screen memory for like aliens. Is that what you were referring to?
Yes. I came across that in Whitley Strieber's, also Dolores Cannon, and also different people that have all explained these things. And when I came across them, I remember like, oh, yeah, I had my memory. I wonder if that's a screen memory, and I had this passing thought. And then an hour went by, I was at work, I was doing my day job, just doing normal stuff. And then I started having a full-blown PTSD episode. I was wanting to run away. I was wanting to get, I was a fight or flight. I wasn't okay emotionally through that whole evening. My girlfriend was really worried about me, and I was able to move past it that week of kind of really internalizing like, okay, this event wasn't negative. It was just how the event happened, and that being a mask for my psyche, like, and internalizing that. And that was actually one of the other things they approached as well in the channeling. Once they were I was in the back seat and they were driving the channeling where they were talking through me. They mentioned that they were sorry for upsetting me, and they didn't mean to. And they said we make mistakes, and I was crying. My tears were running down my eyes, but they were still driving my body, so I couldn't really emote. So as soon as the session was over and they recentered from my psyche, I started bawling like a baby for a while. So it's been a healing process for sure.
These are real too, because it's like I've had many strange things happen to myself as well. And one particular night, I had like a sleep paralysis. I don't know if something was happening, but girlfriend had woken me up and she was like, "You okay? What's going on?" You were like freaking out, and I didn't realize that I was. It was just something was happening to me, and I snapped out of it. And he texted me like literally like minutes later. He's like, "Dude, are you okay?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "I don't know. You had like something, you can correct me, like something told him or was shown to him, and that something had happened, and I was just like, that's weird, but I don't think that's a coincidence either.
I wonder about your connection. Like in a session, I would be so curious to find out like what the backstory there is. Like, are you like three little Arcturians, and or were you together in the space? It's like, here we go, high five, see you down
Well,
there, or something. I
yeah,
wonder what the connection is.
I try to keep myself open because, and it's funny you say Arcturian because that's what a woman had told me, and it's just like I don't like. It's not that I don't believe her or anything. I just keep it open because I know that everything is happening all at once that you keep hearing about. So we have many different connections. It's not always just one. But she says Arcturian, and it's come up more than a few times. Even another friend of ours just spat it off to me one day. He's like, "Are you Arcturian, dude?" And I was like, "What the hell?" I was like that synchronicity. So it was weird. But yeah, like it is weird that keeps popping up. But
This kind of brought up a question for me, if you don't mind answering. So when you're meeting with a client and you're going through the hypnotic therapy sessions, does it come up to where it's like kind of small stages, like a ramp up of contact, if you will? Like it starts off with a little thing that might seem to the client as being odd, and then it slowly, as their awareness may possibly be coming to the surface from their subconscious, that more things start happening. Because for me and myself and Gray Druid, that seems to be very much the case. It's more of like well, let's see if they're paying attention, kind of little subtle hints. And then once you pay attention, I always call my group my other selves. So we're one. They are me. I am them. We are one. That's usually how I start making the contact with them. And they're very receptive to that universal consciousness and the oneness. I use dowsing rods, which I call channeling rods, and we use a spirit box, okay, for our sessions. And they're very receptive to it. But at this time, I didn't have a spirit box, and I was just thinking, I was with my fiance in the kitchen, and I was just thinking, I don't need validation because I've believed this since birth. I've known since birth that there's other life out there. We're not alone in the universe. They've been here, some are still here, etc. And I asked, and I said, am I ever going to meet you? And they said, yes. And then I thought, I didn't say it, speak it out loud. I thought, can I do it now? I mean, not trying to sound selfish, but I would really love that again. And they said no. And I was filled with some sadness at first, a little bit of disappointment, of course, because I'm a human being and that's part of the experience, right? That's part of the learning process.
Right.
And it just came out where I was just, I love you, right? I understand why you can't, because it's dangerous. It's dangerous for them, I think, sometimes to just come down, appear, whatever else, there's different forms of travel for them, thought and everything else. And suddenly the rods, I had the one in my right hand touch my left shoulder, and one in my left hand touched my right shoulder. And that was the first time they give me a hug.
I know it sounds like a hug. That's beautiful.
And thank you. And they give me hugs constantly.
Nice.
And I always hug them back, right? And I felt it's the most beautiful feeling that words cannot describe. I know this is repetitive for my friends here, but I felt like all of the, we put on this armor when we deal with this density, this dimension. We put on this armor against each other we fortify ourselves. So all this anger, hatred, fear, sorrow, all these negative emotions, I felt them being pulled away, not from my physical body, but from my soul when that hug hit, right? And it was a love that transcends human love. There's not a word for it, right? And like Gray Druid, I cried, I bawled like a baby, and I felt reborn.
Yeah.
And that was something that was, while it was in me, right? It was also, touching that higher source through this density, dimensional group that I know that they call themselves M, which I just kind of researched lately that it might be emerthers. So but that whole experience was validation for me. And it was such a positive healing experience that even talking about it gives me goosebumps. And I feel just a little bit of it every time we give each other hugs. And people ask me, Grant Cameron, which we interviewed, he asked me, he said, what do you think their message is? And I said, well, after talking to them through these sessions, and we have them all recorded and stuff, but I was like, love. Love is their message. That's what they're concerned with. They're concerned about humans understanding the concept of true love, a universal love, not I love my car or I love that TV show.
Unconditional.
Not beyond unconditional, one that we cannot understand in this incarnation.
Yeah.
And it's astounding. I wish everybody could feel it. And I bet you anything to the audience that is watching this right now, that some of the clients that have seen this wonderful person, Jeroen, some of his clients have experienced the same thing, at least. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. This is kind of another normal, during sessions where they either have a similar experience. There's lots of tears streaming down their faces when they are either, bathing in love in source or with their guides, angels or star family. This is a very powerful healing experience. Thank you for bringing that up. And it really does clear the DNA and the physical body from these pent up feelings and emotions and emotional debris from all the traumas, and it erases it. And people come out of it and you can see, like I call it spiritual Botox. Like I see it in their face, like here, it's all like relaxed and open and there's a sparkle and they're more present.
It's a gift that I feel like even at this point in time, I can't comprehend how I deserved it. I don't know if that really makes any sense. I know I did, or else they wouldn't have given it, but it's so incomprehensible, that again, I wish everybody could feel even an ounce of it, because I think that would change all of humanity like that if everybody could. And so I always want people to keep their minds open about this, about our being a consciousness. And if we are as one and our message is love, not again, love my car, but like a universal love for thyself, and that you can love others because they are you as well. And so are these entities, that, wow, we could transcend our current situation, get rid of a lot of our problems, which I know you've discussed about some of your hypnotic sessions with other people, talking about what the future would look like. Yeah. And I think that we could have been there yesterday if we just get on board.
I love that you bring this up. Also because like we're talking about self-love here, and some people even think that this is like selfish, that you're supposed to like love others first or all the time. And it's a good principle, but if you don't know how to love yourself, what kind of vessel are you, or what kind of vibration are you holding if you deny yourself? And this is coming up in sessions over and over, especially when there's these healing experiences, that people are really here to love themselves first, so they can hold their sort of divine frequency and contribute to others or be an inspiration to others. And we just haven't been taught how to do this. And so when we're told to love ourselves, we think it's going to go get a massage or something, but it's really about, in my perspective, like recovering all the aspects of the architecture of your personality that you came in with, that you knew you were when you were a baby. You were still an integral whole. And then little bits and pieces started flying off because, your society and parents and peers and just the vibration of this place, they were trying to cram this square peg in a round hole, and the bits and pieces that went flying that were deep, not good enough, we lost them. And, when we have these like love experiences, oftentimes people realize that they are here to anchor a particular expression of source on the planet, deliberately so, to help break down old paradigms and to be a visible marker on the playing field of an option of being that hasn't been seen before. For other people to go like, oh my God, this is, there's this option, this is great. Or, for people that are so steeped in their rigidity to also be tripped in their thinking like, fuck, why is it like that? Why that shouldn't exist, I really believe that nature is a good example of this, because nature just is. I connect with nature a lot. Nature does not demand me to be any different but what I am, because it shows up as it is. And so, yeah, I really celebrate these sessions where people reclaim part of their original blueprint, because it's not just empowering for them, but it's going to ripple out when other people are with them. Yes. And I mean, this is how it worked for me. I've been on my own healing journey for a long time. And as I learned to purge my being from all the self-judgments and limiting beliefs that I've taken on being alive on this planet, what I found underneath of it all is that I am part of Source. And as I stopped judging myself for different things, I wanted to stop judging others as well, because if I'm Source, then everybody else is too. And so are the animals and the planet, all the life that exists around us. This is my, I think, goal on the planet here, to help people connect with their authenticity and their love, so they stop judging themselves and they start seeing their environment as just as they are. And just as they want to stop harming themselves, they will want to stop harming what happens around them. So hopefully, the more people that get this, the less accepting we are of systems of thinking and producing food and all the economics and all the systems that we have around us, where violence and brutality and extraction and exploitation and making people the other, and that as a excuse to exploit and talk down to them, where that will just stop because it will no longer be acceptable. That's my belief in how this is a way that this can happen. As we sort of upgrade ourselves by loving ourselves. This is going to ripple out. And, I've been told in sessions, like, just talk about 5D and how to get there and, how does this all work? We are creating the new Earth here by upgrading ourselves. Like I just explained, that we create these pockets and experiences that we walk in and out of these experiences of like a 5-dimensional consciousness. And the more that we do this, the more that we love ourselves, the more that ripples out and becomes like a stable, sustainable vibration here. With the rippling out into the systems of the world that will break down and make way for some more loving and compassionate, heart-centered systems of thinking.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's get it done. I mean, honestly, that's why we're doing this, right? And that's why we're doing this, so we can spread that awareness, spread that love that we have for each other. Like, I love you all, and let's have other people, absorb that love and become love themselves, and just chain reaction through.
As a message for people that are listening, like, your weirdness, your uniqueness is really your superpower. For me, it was being gay and genderqueer, whether you don't fit the predominant like racial description of a culture or a country, or the gender, sexuality, expression, or any of the other aspects of a human being that you feel weird about. Like, this is really your superpower. You're here to be visible with it and embrace it and help others to sort of claim that as well for themselves. You're not weird or wrong for that. You're not here to fit in. You're here to show how it's done.
I wanted to ask, as you had mentioned blueprint, that's the word I've heard from another hypnotherapist. People say that, we choose like the bulk of, I say bulk because I know that there's that wiggle room of the free will aspect as we go through. And when the guides come through in the hypno sessions, they're like, they try to explain it, but they say there really is no way to fully comprehend it while we're here. Like, because I know, like, for example, like if we go, the blueprint is from A to Z, there's all these other different choices that can happen and stuff like that. So have people in the regression mentioned that, or any of the guides coming through mention that, or even the beings?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of confusing, like you said, for me as well, because there is this whole scripted part to it. Like, we opt into this particular lifetime where we pick and choose different experiences. But then there is free will, meaning that you can veer off the path. And I see this happening a lot when people go into sort of historical past lives where they were meant to, like I had my own experience, like I was meant to move more into the heart in one of my past lives that I've become aware of, and I didn't. It's confusing to me. I don't know how it works, to be honest, because I hear all the time that stuff happens for a reason always, but then there's also free will. And kind of my grasp at this is that, this is really like an experiment and a game for our souls to come here and to use a set of parameters to try and figure something out. But then within the parameters, you can make like a side journey, and learn some. But it's all experience or learning for the soul to be able to expand. And when you come out of it, you have this live review, and you go like, "Oh, that was interesting." Like I didn't quite get what I was aiming to do in this lifetime,
Right.
because this was a little too hard, or I took on too much, or I was kind of distracted by greed or lust or whatever was going on. I'm going to try it again, and this time I'm going to pick you and you and you. Would you like to come into this life with me? You're going to be my evil parent who like teaches me to not love myself, so I can have this journey to experience that and tend to know how to love myself again. So you contract with different people, and then you set up a new set of parameters in a new lifetime, and then you go in and try that. So as I'm talking, I think we do set a purpose with a set of parameters for Earth lifetimes, but then there is the possibility to have all kinds of different experiences, and also to change it as we're in it.
That's what Bashar says, and I saw it kind of like, if I had to picture it or use an analogy, it's kind of like a tree. Like you have the main trunk, but it's just like all these branches that can go in different directions, which is why I think we can't fully comprehend it, because we have all these other choices that we can make, but we can't like see it. I mean, I've had glimpses. I mean, there was a time where I was walking in the street and I had like this massive like deja vu. And it was like, I knew I was at this particular place that I was staying at, why I was here for a reason. I remembered like all of myself, and then it was taken from me, and I was just like, no. and then I felt blind again, or even like, for lack of a better term, like dumber. Like I felt like I understood, and then I felt like that understanding was taken away.
I looked at it as like, why can't I just like have the veil be lifted, and that's, why do we have to be here so disconnected? But I mean, I've been shown over and over again that this is something that we take on purposefully, that there is,
Right.
like Earth seems to be a coveted place to go as a soul to learn certain things, because we get these blinders, we get sort of this limited perspective, and it forces us to have very particular learning experiences that we cannot have when we're all connected and all knowing. It's like, I have to identify with the game here, with all the feelings and emotions that are happening, to really go through it, to be in it, to be able to learn the things and to experience the things that we want to experience. Like I've been told many times by a soul or a guide that Earth is very coveted because you can have these experiences here of being in feelings, because they don't exist in other realms.
I heard in higher dimensions, that it's like that. Like
Yeah.
Bashar says that they don't. It's like they're aware of negativity and things like that, but because they're so connected, it's not really. They choose to have a more loving experience. There is a purpose for us being here. Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
I have a fun example for something like this. I was in a session with somebody, and they were like a purple angel being, and they were telling me that they were looking at Earth with longing, and I asked them about it. It's like, what do you like about Earth so much? And they said, well, because you can have all these experiences. It's so varied, and you can have all these feelings. Then they went into a human Earth lifetime. I think that's maybe where we started the regression. And they found themselves, they're a man in this current lifetime, but they were a woman in this past lifetime on Earth, and described themselves as this beautiful, voluptuous redhead somewhere in a Nordic place or Scotland or something. It was a more primitive time, and they lived in a cottage just outside of the village. And we found out it was like a thoroughfare for like travelers, because, one of my questions is always like, how do you spend your time? What do you do with your time the most? And my client kind of hesitantly says, I'm in bed. And I see him frown, and I'm like, you're in bed. What do you do in bed? He goes, I'm having sex, a lot of it. And I was like, are you a sex worker? And he goes, no, I mean, I get paid for it, but I fucking love this. And it turns out that this woman at that time, you know, she was like, this is what she loved to do. She loved experiencing all kinds of flavors of sexuality. Cottage was just outside of town at the thoroughfare because you could have like fresh influx of like travelers come in and have more sex. So, you know, this was so funny to me because usually I deal with like sort of higher life purposes of like, come to the planet Earth to help. And, you know, and this angelic being said they wanted to come and learn about pleasure. And so they took on that experience to learn about pleasure. It was very particular.
Many different reasons, yeah.
It makes
And-
sense. I mean, it really
Yeah.
does to have the experience, you know, and yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it makes sense.
And we might have, you know, humans might have judgment on it, like even hearing it now, like, why would you come to the planet as an angel and then be a sex worker? Well, because this is an experience that we're here to have. So, yeah, to also not judge those, you know, odd experiences that we might have. Yeah.
Right.
And it was interesting because I was asking, like, well, how does the village think about this? Because I'm thinking we're in like medieval Europe, like, here come the pitchforks and like, you know,
Right.
being burned at the stake and stuff. But no, she had esteem in the village. She was also providing pleasure. This is what it said. She provided pleasure to the villagers as well. Yeah. So they had it worked out.
We're going to have you back on again because I know that we have so many questions still.
Please have me on because I love talking about this. I often, because I've been doing this for so long, I forget that the stuff that I encounter is helpful for other people to know about it. Yeah, and I kind of just forget about it. I just do sessions like 4 times a week, and they're, you know, they're extraordinary or very simple, but there's always something that comes out of it where I go like, huh, interesting. And it's looking back at it, it's really shaped my view on my own identity as a person or a soul here, but also like the view of what I think we're doing here. And it's, I mean, the view that I have is that we live in a benevolent universe, and that all our experiences are really here to help us expand, and that we're here temporarily. You know, I really see myself and all of us as spiritual beings of one kind or another, and we kind of dip into this game field here to have these experiences and to expand our consciousness, and then to pull back out and review and process, and then have another experience. But it's an ongoing journey. You know, death in the sense that we think about it, it does not exist. It's just experience to me.
What you've done with every one of those clients is you've spread that love, you've spread that understanding just a little bit more, and they will spread it to others and others and others. And it's just a beautiful thing. And the more that we go down this road, the more work that you do, I think that we would be at a terrible disservice if you weren't. So I want to thank you, you know, from the bottom of my heart for all of your hard work and dedication. It must have been great to have learned underneath Dolores Cannon. I bet you she was just a great woman, and maybe next time we'll get together and just, you know, I was always just kind of curious, not just the first meeting, but like every other time you had an interaction, just how it went, you know, soul to soul, just having a nice little conversation, whether it be over tea or who knows, you know, because regardless, you're a real person just like the rest of us. So we always put our pants on the same way, and we like to just have our relaxation time. And it's not all serious all the time, because life is supposed to be about the experience of joy and happiness as well. And just, wow, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure to have you here. You've brought a lot of insight and joy into my day today. So
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Oh, that is so heartwarming. Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you for the community that you provided for me as well. To, you know, because I'm like you, I'm born in the early 70s. When I grew up, there wasn't anything like this. I'm like, am I alone here, you know?
There wasn't.
And now getting to connect with my clients that have similar experiences, and you guys, like, this is always, and I think it's really powerful to have community in our experiences.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Thank
people, when we were talking to Grant Cameron, is like, how does this get normalized? And it's like, you talk about it, and you keep talking about it, and it's just kind of spreading like wildfire. And I've asked these guys like off screen, and I'm like, you guys feel that, right? Like, it's weird. Like, we all feel like something's coming, and it's been in the process of that for like such a long time, but now it's becoming more and more tangible. You have Congress members talking about interdimensional beings, and people are seeing the corruption everywhere. You got France, Germany, like everyone's standing up to push back and say no and fight against the norm. People sharing their near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, hypnotherapy sessions, and all of that. And it's becoming more normalized. So thank you for doing that. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. And I have more questions. We just don't have time for it. But,
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to get ready for my session for the day. See
Sweet.
what comes up today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you all. Thank you for sharing.
You as well.
Like, share, and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys on the other side.